Now, Phil, I know you're a Frank Sinatra man, a bit of Bing Crosby, but do the Angels hold a place in your heart?
Yeah, in the last minute I've been converted.
Well, please, I'm glad to hear that, because sitting opposite us, John Brewster, Rick Brewster, the Brewster brothers from the Angels. G'day, guys.
Oh, guys,
Good evening.
So good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
My pleasure.
You've come a long way from the washboard days, right?
Oh, yeah,
Well,
but
not that far. I pull it out every now and again.
yeah. And you know what? He gets a better response to the washboard than he does to anything else he does.
I imagine you guys were pioneers of the Sunbury Pop Festival back in the mid-70s.
Yeah, 1975 we played Sunbury, and that was the year that AC/DC and Deep Purple had a fist fight.
Oh, tell us.
Yeah.
Oh. On stage?
Yeah, I think Deep Purple were holding him up. I don't know what happened, how it started. Probably started with the road crew, I'm not sure, but George Young got involved, Harry Vander, and Angus and Malcolm, the whole lot of them.
They ended up not playing, didn't they?
Yeah, they ended up not playing.
But on another occasion, wasn't there a brawl at one of your gigs?
Well,
several.
Yes, well, funny you should mention that.
Amongst the
Phil.
band or the audience?
Not on stage. We've had our moments on stage,
Yeah,
but
what happened, do you recall?
not so physical.
Do you recall one incident in particular?
Well, I guess the famous one is the Sydney Opera House, which we're doing on this run with the symphony show, the Symphony of Angels. But Sydney Opera House, turn of the decade, 1980, that turned into a hell of a riot. And
What started that? Your music band?
No, well, the Lord...
Rolf Harris's music, actually.
Yeah, it was Rolf.
Yeah, he was doing the warm-up. Yeah.
It's all Rolf's fault.
Oh.
Rolf was hit, so was the Lord Mayor, Nelson Mears, I think, at the time.
Marsha Hines.
Everyone got hit by something. They got really drunk. The Sydney City Council thought they could put a show on for everybody.
That was on the steps of the Opera House.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. So
In
this
front
time
of
we're going
60
inside.
I think 60,000 people were rioted, didn't they?
Yeah, oh yeah, it was. It was
So
a
by the
huge
time
crowd.
By the time we hit the stage at about 11:30, it was insane.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, Rick's a little bit. He's half an hour behind the times because actually it was New Year's Eve and we went on just after at midnight.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
After midnight, you
Yes, we
reckon?
did.
I thought we called midnight in.
No, the Nelson Mears did that. Rick, we played after that.
Oh, there you go.
Now, you mentioned AC/DC. They were, well, not instrumental in the band getting up and running, but they weren't against you, were they? Given that you're...
Actually, I think the instrumental's a good word because they introduced us to Harry Vander and George Young after we did 3 gigs in South Australia, and they were Port Pirie, Whyalla and Port Augusta, and we supported them, and they liked us, and well, we became friends almost immediately, and they saw something in us that I don't think we saw. I think they saw the potential in us, and I guess we always had belief too, but they liked us so much they went back and told Harry Vander and George Young about us. We went to Sydney, long story short, a couple of weeks later we got signed up to Albert's, which was amazing times.
It's pretty good of them, given the Angels and AC/DC. Like for every Angels album that was bought, probably an AC/DC one wasn't, because you'd have similar, very similar fans, and if they could only afford one album, they've got to buy one or the other. So you would think they would not be that keen on promoting a band similar to them.
They had so much self-belief. And for good reasons, you know. I mean, I remember sitting in a bus with Bon Scott, and he said to me, we're going to shift overseas, and we're going to be one of the biggest bands in the world. And I said to him, yeah, I agree. And he said, but you know why, John? And I said, you tell me, Bon. And he said, because we got Angus. To which I said, yeah, but don't sell yourself short, Bon, because they've got you too.
Yeah, true.
And that combination, I mean, you know, that band, well, just look at history. I mean, they've sold something like 300 million albums.
What a great marriage for you guys with Vander and Young over the years. I want to ask you why the band has changed names more than once.
Oh, well, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we actually started off as a Moonshine Jug and String band, and Rick was playing the washboard.
I think that's the greatest name for a band I've ever heard, but it doesn't quite lend itself to where you ended up. But it sounds like something out of The Simpsons.
Oh, and well, look, it was a great fun band, and it sort of started off as something to do for fun. But we started writing some songs. We decided to take the whole thing seriously, and I think probably because the whole jug band thing was rooted in the 1920s. You know, we were doing songs from even pre-1920s, like some of the blues songs like Gus Cannon's Jug Stompers and stuff.
Stuff
Anyway,
from your era, Phil.
Absolutely, it's in my collection.
But we loved all the old movies like Mae West and W.C. Fields and of course the Keystone Cops. And I think one afternoon at a barbecue, we were having a barbecue and trying to come up with a name for the band because we knew it had to be an electric band because if you were going to write songs you had to change. And there was maybe 300 songs, titles, and it might have been Doc calling them out. And we went, Keystone Angels, that's a good name. And then when George Young got involved with us, he said, why have you got that word Keystone in your name? And it was probably because of the Keystone Cops or something and the zany side of the jug band. And then George said, because the Angels is a good name. So that's how that started. And then, of course, we started touring the world. And in 1980, a band in America called Angel took out an injunction and stopped us being called the Angels. So we became Angel City overseas.
And how did that go? Happy with that or not?
We didn't like it.
I hated it.
Yeah?
Absolutely hated it.
Yeah, none of us
Still do.
Yeah, it sounds like a postcode.
Oh, it's horrible.
It does. It's sad, but we wanted to keep the word angel in there.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it still causes confusion. There's one of our fans is Mike McCready from the Pearl Jam band. And they're big fans of us because we did really well in Seattle. So, all those guys saw us back then. And Mike McCready came over here and he was looking for Angel City records. And somebody said, no, that's the Angels. And fortunately, he bought them all.
1976, Am I Ever Going to See Your Face Again? Just having a look through historical bits and pieces, it charted, so it was successful, but it wasn't.
It wasn't really.
It wasn't huge at the time, but it has gone on to be iconic. I've got teenage kids who know that song better than I do.
Yeah, it's probably Phil's fault. Because he probably heard the song and went, no way, etc.
I'll put another Bing track on.
Rick, tell us about the tour where you were working with David Bowie. I think it was his first Australian Down Under tour.
Yeah, 1978.
Tell us about the guy. Was he, easy to get along with?
Very. He was an absolute gentleman. We met him. We met the whole band. We went to dinner with them.
Every night.
They were wonderful people. I only ever had a fairly short conversation with David. I was complimenting him on the show and the lights, and he kind of looked at the ground. He was a very humble man. He said, actually, that was my idea.
Yeah, I believe he shared the sound, the lighting, everything with you guys.
Including choosing us to be his opening act, and he insisted on calling us special guests. He loved our music, and we loved his, and his show was just incredible.
And did you tour with him around Australia and beyond?
Yeah, we're beyond.
Just Australia.
He wanted us to go to Japan with him, but we couldn't because we had all these commitments. Because the band at that stage we were going through the roof. Face to Face was up to triple platinum at that stage and going crazy. So
he was a very complex man, I imagine.
Oh, I'm sure he was. We didn't know him well enough.
No, just on stage only, really.
Well, they came to a show. A wonderful experience. On one of the nights off from the Bowie tour, we did the Bondi Lifesaver, the famous club in Sydney, and we were just into the first number, and all of a sudden there was the entire Bowie band and Bowie that came down in what we call the punter barrier down the front. They were between the stage and the audience, right down below us, like feet away, and they stood there and watched our whole show.
Oh, nice.
Early days of mosh pit.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and ask a question that could either get me in trouble or not, but every great band, as the Angels have been for years, every great band usually has a story of supporting somebody in a gig and then being told, we don't want you supporting, and it turns out that the main act was a bit unhappy with the fact that the gig that the band warming up for them was better than they were. Has the Angels ever been kicked off a tour
Absolutely, that was the Kinks in the US, which we really hated that because that killed us doing the East Coast with them. So we did all the whole West Coast run, and which I think started off in what's that town where John Denver comes from.
Well, he's Denver, Colorado, isn't it?
Yeah, Denver.
Rocky Mountain.
Yeah, we started off there. And anyway, I've always liked the Kinks, but Ray Davies, I think, was a little bit paranoid, and he actually got his manager to tell Doc, to tell our manager to tell Doc that he couldn't go out in the audience because he was going over too well. And Doc said, bugger that. So we went over too well and they kicked us off the tour.
Yeah, and how sad was that? That was just prior to Madison Square Gardens, New York.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, how disappointing.
Yeah, it was very, very disappointing. And, I don't know what they were worried about. I think he was paranoid because, I mean, they had the hits. We were unknowns, but we were going over great.
Beautiful. Now, before I forget, because I'm vague and I do forget things, one of the reasons you're chatting to us tonight, there is a new album out, the Angels, Symphony of Angels, with the Adelaide Symphony Orchestra.
Yes.
How did that come about?
They contacted us. They had a window, and we'd already spoken to them about the possibility sometime of doing it. And so they contacted us, and basically they hired the band. And so they had their whole database as well, and the show sold out, 2,000 people. But in the meeting where we agreed to do it, I was having a meeting with Vince, the CEO, and Guy Ross, and I thought, I'll be a bit cheeky here. How about a choir as well? And they said, yeah, we can do that. So we had a 40-piece choir, which we'll be having in our shows here in Sydney and in Sydney Opera House.
Yeah, how terrific. And, of course, it worked for the Beach Boys have done something similar, as has Anthony Callier, as you know, with the Symphony Orchestra. And
it's fantastic.
Now they're remixing Roy Orbison and Elvis Presley the same way, with a big symphony orchestra.
Right.
What a wonderful idea. I mean, it really works.
But I strongly suggest that people buy the Angels. None of those other CDs.
Of course. Only the Angels.
Let's hear, we desperately need a break, but let's hear from the Angels, Symphony of Angels, with the Adelaide Symphony Orchestra. We're going to play Shadow Boxer?
Yeah, that was a big hit for us, and it's also not too long, and, the whole show is great, but play that.
We'll play this into a break, then we'll come back and repart it.
Yeah, we've done 4 minutes.
Yes, I know.
It's great, guys. We've got a good rapport, haven't we? We have. Nice. I think we've known each other forever. Nice.
I was telling you.
Went down to Santa Fe where Renoir paints the walls. Described it clearly, but the sky began to fall. Am I ever gonna see your face again? Am I ever gonna see your face again?
And right across Melbourne, people have just sworn, Phil, they've uttered an expletive because it has become synonymous with that song. Written by Rick and John Brewster with Doc Neeson. Is that right, guys?
Yeah, it is. And that's a version that I actually don't like that much. The very first version is a lot faster, and it had our original drummer, Charlie King, on the drums. He only stayed with us for that one single. But I really loved that take.
And it had the ambulance.
And Rick's ambulance,
But what a great song. I mean, it's sort of become an anthem, hasn't it?
It has, The thing is, it wasn't really a big hit at the time. It's the whole story, when you're a new band coming up, often you get overlooked, and then suddenly, in retrospect, people discover how it all started, and that, Face Again became huge.
And then, like Darryl Braithwaite's The Horses, it just never goes away. It's around forever.
We can never get away from that song. And it's not like we hate it or anything. It's a good song, but Of course, it's become huge because of the little response that people do, which we had nothing to do with.
So you never wrote that in the original lyrics?
It wasn't there, no. Actually, the actual reality is the lyrics are quite sad because it's about a girl that was killed. She, I think, drove a motorcycle into a pole and died. And she was a girlfriend of our manager at the time.
Okay, talking to John and Rick from the Angels. We're talking about all your successes. Have there been disappointments along the way, Rick?
Oh, I'm sure they have. Yeah, I can't remember any.
Any sort of setbacks? Did you turn up somewhere in foul weather and had a small audience, or the sound failed, or the lighting failed? Or...
Well, we turned up to one gig in Canada, wasn't it? With no gear because the truck had caught fire in the snow.
Yeah, and the support band loaned us all their gear, and their gear were like these little baby amps, and we're a loud band with Marshalls, etc. And it was a live to air, and so we had to use these little amps, and it was fantastic. We actually played great, and it sounded great, and
Wow.
No, but also, wasn't there a recording session where the studio caught fire and the master got burned?
yeah, the masters weren't burnt, but Rick was nearly burnt.
What happened?
We weren't recording at the time, we were mixing, and it was only me in the studio with the engineer and a couple of engineers and the studio manager. And I was sitting in the control room doing whatever mixing, and I saw the door open and Andrew Scott came up behind me. He was a big guy, and he came up and lifted me out of my chair, looked at me and said, "Rick, the building's on fire. We're leaving." And I raced into the studio, grabbed my guitar, and we went out through the door into pitch black, acid smoke. Everything in the building was gone and on fire, except the studio. It was isolated. So we got out, but it was the firemen said it was the hottest fire they'd fought. It happened to be a pathology lab opposite the studio that went up, and they were illegally making speed in the lab, and one of the bottles blew up.
Wow.
Now, the evolution of the Angels over how long's it been? 40-something
45 now. 45 years.
45 years, and there's been, Doc sort of left after his accident and all that sort of thing. But I think if my research is right, Rick, you're the only one who's been there right the way through. Even John took a break for a while.
That's true.
Is that right?
John took a break. Doc took 6 breaks.
Yes.
Said he'd never left the band, but it was actually six times.
And was it true that he announced he'd had his car accident, and he announced at a gig that was it, the band was ending?
Yeah.
And you guys were none the wiser that he'd actually made that decision?
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's pretty much on the money. Rick and I started playing as the Brewster Brothers because we realised we didn't have a band anymore.
Yeah.
But gradually that all turned around, and here we are. We had a reunion with Doc that lasted about 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And then he left for the 6th time.
That was the 6th, and that was the last one. And then, of course, very sadly, he got a brain tumour and ended up passing away in 2014. But Dave Gleason joined the band, and he's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, Screaming Jets, Dave Gleason.
Yeah. His voice, in no way does he try and emulate Doc Neeson. He did, people say, he stepped into Doc's shoes. I disagree. He brought his own shoes with him, but he has a sort of timbre in his voice that really suits the repertoire. So he doesn't sound that totally different for Doc,
Is it hard, though, convincing the fans, or was it when Dave first joined? Was it hard convincing the fans? Like, when Mark Hunter passed away, you would think that's the end of Dragon, but Todd Hunter's kept it going, or brought it back.
Yeah, and we have too, and the reality is it was a lot easier than we thought it was going to be. We thought, some people thought it was impossible.
Yeah.
But in actual fact, it wasn't. And people love Dave. He's a great front man. He's an absolute character. I say to, He's like a mixture of a clown and a dramatic actor.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, it's really the songs that matter. As long as the band is performing them well, and I have to say we do, and Dave is great, then, we get great reactions.
You're going to do something for us live, guys?
We could do that.
Yeah, just the two of us.
They're
Yeah, we
sitting
can
there
do
with
that.
guitars, so I hope
Well,
so.
we've talked to
We
them
didn't
for
bring
half
them for
an hour,
nothing.
and I'm just wondering when it's all going to start.
All
Well,
right.
when we do the Symphony of Angels show at the Hamer Hall on the 6th of April,
Yeah.
there'll be a lot more than just Rick and me playing.
Well, it was very good of you guys tonight to bring the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra with you.
I'm just
I mean,
trying-
it's a very crowded studio, isn't it?
I'm just trying to think how many actually. There's 40 people in the choir,
Yeah.
32 in the orchestra. That's 72. So 77 was that? Let's call it 80 with the
Yeah,
conductor.
yeah.
It'll be great. So when's that? 6th of April, did you say?
6th of April at Hamer Hall. We do Sydney Opera House 2 days before.
Great.
That's the warm-up before the big gig at Hamer
yeah.
Hall.
I mean, Sydney Opera
right.
House,
Yeah.
Sydney.
But it's like, look, it's incredibly exciting. We have a classical musical family that we grew up in. Our grandfather was the founder of the Adelaide Symphony Orchestra, and our dad was the principal cellist, and then the director of music for the ABC at the time when they ran the orchestra. So that's a family we grew up in.
Well, what was, may I ask, what was Dad's opinion when his two young sons decided to become rock and roll, hard-hitting musos?
Rather negative.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was horrified. He said, "What are you doing getting into music, boys? It's a rat race," he said. I remember that. And he said, "There's no security." And here we are. And you know what? He's actually right. But here we are 45 years later, still doing well.
But you really started off almost in a classical mode, didn't you?
Well, Rick did. Yeah, very much
absolutely.
so. Yeah, Rick played the piano. I did cello for a while, but not enough to talk about.
And you're not going to pick it up on stage at the...
Yeah, I'll just walk up to the lead cellist and say, "Hey, listen, move over."
My turn. Yeah.
Oh, great.
All right, so what are you going to do for us tonight?
Well,
What about No Secret?
we'll do a song that probably suits me on an acoustic and Rick on electric, so with no drums and bass, etc. And it was a big hit for us. We'll do No Secrets.
Lovely.
Okay, so here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Amanda, the actress, waits at the station. She's gripping with nothing to do. With dilettante steps, she's quick to accept the weather and time soon in screw. She lives in a tower under the fences she learned from her mother and friends. Walks like a pharaoh, dresses in day glow. When she's in pain, she pretends that late in the night when the lights are all out, she slips off her stockings and shoes. She makes you her lover, lets you discover the smile she keeps for you. She keeps no secrets from you. She keeps no secrets from you. She keeps no secrets from you. Face in the morning, wearing a shadow, she throws her dice in her chin. Rescuing man, no, she won't change anything. 'Cause late in the night when the lights are all out, she slips off her stockings and shoes. She makes you her lover, lets you discover the smile she keeps for you. She keeps no secrets from you. She keeps no secrets from you. She keeps no secrets from you. strips off her stockings and shoes. She makes you her lover and lets you discover the smile she keeps for you. She keeps no secrets from 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 you.
Fantastic.
Beautiful. Oh, what a treat that was, boys. Can't
Thank you.
wait for April 6th.
I think Rick's
And,
guitar didn't happen for the solo though.
Yeah, I stepped on a lead, I think.
Oh,
Except on the wrong thing.
Sounded
no,
good to me.
we got it in there.
Hamer Hall, right? April 6th. Tickets from Ticketmaster.
Rick and John Brewster, thank you so much for your time. It's been fabulous to meet you.
Yeah, great to talk to you, Simon and Phil. Fantastic. And you make a lovely couple.
Oh,
Yeah.
very kind.
They call us the odd couple, guys.
Thanks, guys.